Now, what would you guys think the first training would be if this is sales training and the goal is to scale your business? What would you think is the foundational training that we would start with? Shortly. So the goal is to scale your business. And one of the reasons why loan officers and salespeople don't get to the spot where they scale their business is because their day completely controls them. At
Mhm.
the end of the day, they feel like, oh my gosh, I've went crazy, and I'm just going around putting out fires, but I did nothing to help build my business further. The worst days for me as a loan officer were at the end of the day is where I felt that, man, I didn't do anything. Yeah, I talked to lots of clients and, putting out this issue, figured out how to restructure and all this, all important stuff. But it was those days that ended that I didn't do anything to grow my business. Sales activities, right? And so the first and most important thing to start off with, because when we don't have the proper foundation, it's hard to put the foundation into place when things are nuts. And so the first thing we're going to talk about today is a boring topic, but it's a necessary topic, and that is scheduling. How to schedule your day so you can scale and grow your business, grow and scale your business. This is a thing that I see most loan officers fail at miserably. Is they might have good intentions, but at the end of the day, they're in the exact same spot they were yesterday. Their pipelines are not full. They don't have realtor meetings scheduled. Their opportunities and things are not there. And why is because they let their schedule dictate what their day looks like. And instead, we want to flip the script is instead of our day controlling us, we want to control the day. Again, another very logical thing where people are like, duh. But when we look at it in practice, very few people actually do it. And so what I'm going to show you guys is an ideal schedule. Now, when I say ideal, it doesn't mean that you need to do it this way. So please hear me on that. It doesn't mean you need to have hey, this time do it this time, doing this thing, and this time doing it this thing. If you want to, by all means, do it. But I want you to understand the principles behind it so then you can craft your schedule that fits inside of these principles, because some of you may have commitments first thing in the morning that no matter what, you have things with your kids or whatever it is, and it doesn't work out. Fine. Okay. Understand that, going in there and make adjustments to your schedule. And also I know is that you're never going to adhere to it 100%. There's always going to be exceptions, and we'll talk about some of those exceptions. And but the idea is don't make the exceptions become the rule, which we tend to do as people. We allow the exceptions to creep in and eventually take over everything. So I'm going to share my screen, and you guys are going to get a copy of this. And all right, so let's go into the schedule and talk about building a schedule with the goal of building your business. Remember, we're salespeople. Our job is to bring in more business. Our job is not just to do administrative stuff, but people tend to bend towards the administrative because it's the easier of the two in many cases. It might not always be fun, but it can be easier than picking up the phone and calling a realtor, because it could just be easier. It is what it is, right? But our job is to generate business. And as your business grows and you have more business coming in, if then we get an LOA to further help, and we do these things in steps so you continue to grow. Okay, but what does a day look like that's going to help you grow, control your day, get a lot more done in a shorter period of time? Well, the way that to start is have some sort of prep in the morning. Now, when I say a prep in the morning, it just might be, hey, just reviewing the things from yesterday, what I need to get done today, a few of those things. What I try not to do, and what I recommend trying not to do, is to get too deep into files early or the first thing in the morning. The reason for that is because it can mess with your mind. And if you have things that are going sideways, difficult clients, difficult realtors, it can impact what you're going to do next. And that's the first thing I recommend to start every day off with. Every day is prospecting. Now, prospecting is two different types of calls: cold calls and warm calls. A warm call is to a realtor that knows you maybe not well, but you maybe did a deal together, you met at some sort of networking event, but you've not in any sort of relationship, you've never gotten any business from them. It's kind of more like a reconnect. So those are warm calls. The other ones are cold calls, and this is simply calling realtors that don't know who you are, and your goal is to get a meeting with them. Tomorrow we're going to go into prospecting training. So, that's the most important. Get the schedule is the most important, but from the sales activity part, prospecting is number one. And we're going to get into training. With that tomorrow. And so the first part of the day is we want to prospect. And is that because it's the best time to call a realtor in the day? Probably not. But the reason why I recommend making it the very first thing is because then you get it done. Can be a very hard task. Prospecting isn't always fun, but when you do it, your business will grow. You consistently do it, your business absolutely will grow. And prospecting is one of these things that's very easy for somebody to like, you know what, I got to work on this file. I'm going to do that instead of doing the prospecting. I'll prospect later, but then later never really actually happens because something else pops up. But that's why we want to get it done first thing. You get it done, crank it out, schedule 1 to 3, 4, 5 meetings with realtors, depending on how many you connect with. You start your day off with a great, great win. Even if you get no realtors to agree to meet with you during your prospecting time, it's still a net win because there are other positive impact that you get from prospecting. It's like working out. One of the reasons I like working out in the morning is because it preps me for the rest of the day. It lowers cortisol, it increases dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, lots of benefits to working out first thing in the morning. And prospecting, while it's not technically working out, it's kind of like working out. So that actually carries over to other parts of your day. So when you're talking to a borrower or talking to a realtor about something, you have your prospecting strength from earlier in the day. It gives you more confidence. And all that stuff leaks through, saturates other parts and other activities that you're doing. So not only does it mean that you get it done, but it's actually strengthening other parts of your day. So prospecting, get it done. Now, tomorrow we'll actually go into what that looks like and some philosophies, principles, scripts, and those types of things. But from a scheduling standpoint, make that your first part of your day. We have rooms in Zoom. I recommend doing it. Not all the loan officers do it all the time, but I recommend you guys do. And we're looking for ways to maybe even do some more group prospecting where you prospect at the same time. You're both on Zoom or you're all on Zoom. You're making your calls. Yeah, you're not necessarily hearing each other because you might be on mute on Zoom, but you're doing it together because there are strength in numbers. All right, so after you get your prospecting time done, next you're going to have an hour block. It's a good amount of time to do loan stuff. Returning emails, structuring, researching, trying to structure something, chasing a borrower for whatever, anything to do with loan time, stuff to do with loans. After that, you're going to have 3 30-minute time blocks for either a realtor meeting or taking an application for a borrower. Now, I recommend you take your applications over the phone with the borrower. We're not going to talk about that today. We'll talk about that in trainings a little bit down the road. But you have these time blocks for either a realtor meeting or taking an application. So when I'm prospecting a realtor and they agree to meet and I offer a time, I'm going to say, hey, how does Tuesday at 11 or Wednesday at 3:30 work for you? I am going to choose times that I have pre-selected based on my schedule for those appointments. Or if it's let's say I get a text from a client, a potential lead, and hey, I need to get pre-approved, but I'm doing my prospecting. I'm not going to stop and pre-approve them. I'll send them a text message. Hey, I'm in a meeting right now or an appointment right now. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Why it's important to view this as an appointment, but I'm in an appointment right now. Can I call you at 11? Not only are you controlling your schedule, but you shoot that quick text message out, the client still feels like you've answered promptly and you're quick and up to speed on things. So you want to utilize these time blocks to schedule based on what you want. Now, you also should hopefully maybe realize is that you can see on most days there's 6 different slots for this. Are you going to fill those slots up every single day? Of course not. You probably won't fill up 6 slots for any particular day. Maybe some you will, especially as you get busier and busier. And so if you don't have a slot at 11, 11:30, what does that mean? Well, hey, I can get a few more prospecting calls in, or I have more loan time I need to follow up on. Oh, I can go take a walk, get some fresh air, get some steps in. I'm only at 4,000 for the day. I got to get 6,000 more steps in. So after this, I'm going to walk around my house a little bit, right? Utilize that time for then something else. But it's also, it can work like this. So let's just say I'm calling, and James, you're a realtor. I call, hey James, how does 11 or 12 work for us to meet? And you say, hey, there's no way I can do that. The only time that I can meet is 9 o'clock. For that way my schedule is. Now 9 o'clock is my prospecting time. I have a decision to make. Is this a realtor that I actually want to potentially work with? And if we're only prospecting realtors that do at least 6 buyer sides per year, statistically, that's a good realtor, I want to try to work with. And so what I can do is, if I want, is I'm not going to say no in that case, but what I'm going to do is I am going to elevate myself in their mind so they know that I'm not just meet them, do whatever. I'm going to show that my time is valuable. And what I'll do is I'll say something along the lines of this. 9 o'clock Tuesday. Let me look here. I already have a appointment scheduled that time. However, I really want to get this time together with you, and I'm going to move that appointment so that you and I can meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock. That would sound good? Now I'm almost guaranteed that they're going to show up to the appointment, and then they're going to value my time more. And all I simply did is now I took this slot here, and then I can then use another calling block at this time or move things around. So these things can move around based on I need to make an exception. Same thing with a borrower. If it's a borrower that wants to talk at 5 o'clock and I'm normally chasing things, and then I can do the exact same thing. What we never want to do is just say pick a time. You're devaluing yourself, and people don't want to work with people that are devalued. They seem beneath them. People won't say that, but that's how their actions. People want to work with busy people. People want to work with people that value their time. People want to work with people that aren't blowovers. And one of the ways to do that, to not be a blowover, is to control your schedule and have people work to your schedule and make the exceptions as you need. And when you make the exceptions, make sure they know that you are making that adjustment for them. And what you will see is as you continue to work with the realtors, they will start to deflect to you and asking when you will meet instead of them trying to control the situation. And so it's a small thing, but it has a big impact. Okay, so after your slots here, then you have lunch, work at your desk, whatever you do. I still put it in here to show that you can go have lunch and still get a lot done. After that, after lunchtime is refining time. Refining is another training that we will do, not tomorrow, but probably on Wednesday. So what's the difference between prospecting versus refining? Well, prospecting, the goal is to schedule a meeting with a realtor that either doesn't know you or it might know you, but you're not doing any business together. Refining is what you do after the meeting. And this is Miracle Grow. This is the stuff that's going to help you get business from those realtors on an ongoing basis. This is the part where earlier in my career is that I got good at the prospecting the meeting, but I was always frustrated, like, why wasn't I getting business after these meetings, even after the realtor committed to send me business? It's because I was not doing the refining activity. Now, I'm not going to go into depth on that. I'm not really going to it all right now. Just know this has to do with the realtors that you've recently, that you have met. Okay? So it's basically what you do after the meeting. Now, after your refining time, I should also note, if you don't have a large stable of realtors that you have recently met or in your some sort of relationship, you won't have much time for refining initially because there's just not many realtors. Then I suggest opening that up for more meeting time, more prospecting time, so you have more and more realtors. As your business grows, it's generally is going to start off, majority of your time is prospecting, not a lot of refining, but as you have more prospecting that turns to meetings, you're going to have a larger part of your day turning into refining, and a smaller part goes to prospecting, though that prospecting never should go to zero. After refining, more follow-up and structure time, that kind of loan stuff, followed by 3 more slots for either a realtor meeting and or taking an application, followed up by more loan stuff that you need to do, and then at the end of the day, prep for the next day. To me, what prepping for the next day is basically writing a list down of all the things that you know you need to get taken care of tomorrow. Lock this loan, ask so and so for this piece of paper, whatever it is. And why do we do that? It's because it helps create for our brain closure for the day. I remember so many nights where I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my brain goes, "Don't forget to lock that loan." That kind of stuff. You guys ever had that kind of experience where you wake up thinking about a loan? Oh, I got to remember to do that. It's because we didn't give our brain any closure. Our brains are always working for us and trying to help us. And one of the things is trying to help us remember things. And so by the simple act of writing it down, it's like it's like a period at the end of your day. Your brain can shut off. I don't need to remember it because it's written down. It's a very simple thing to do. It takes you 5 minutes. There's 30 minutes here. It doesn't take you 30 minutes to do, but it's a great way to close out your day so then you could be more present, not even just sleeping, more present with your family, your kids. It sucks when you're with your kids and you're thinking about all the things you have to do tomorrow and try to make sure you remember it all. Write it down so you don't have that problem. All right, so that's Monday. Now, Mondays is where you can see the rest of the days are pretty similar with a few exceptions. Go to Tuesday, same thing. Then we have our group coaching call, at 2 o'clock Central. Then you'll see here status updates on Thursdays and Fridays. This can be at any time. I just have it here. You can change it at any time. But this is doing status update calls. We have a training on this coming up in a few days. This is one of the most powerful things that you can utilize and leverage when done correctly to get your business. So if you can do prospecting and you do your status updates, your business cannot help but grow. The key is to do the status updates as a sales activity. And I'm not going to jump into that today, but it's incredibly powerful. You'll get more business from it. You'll get more realtors from it. You'll get more deals from sellers. We get deals from the sellers. The people that are buying the house, we've gotten loans from those sellers because of our status update calls. We get realtors to refer us to other realtors because of our status update calls. So the ones that take this seriously and own this will grow your business. One of the fastest ways to absolutely grow your business. But in order to do it, you need deals. In order to get deals, you need to have meetings. In order to have meetings, you need to prospect. And so it comes back to the most important sales activity that we can do is prospecting. And again, that training is that we will do that tomorrow. And so you look at each day, same thing, same structure, that kind of stuff. It's just a matter of implementation. Having all the knowledge in the world without implementing, it doesn't mean anything. I know James goes to the gym. He knows a lot about working out, and he could have all the knowledge of the world, but unless he went to the gym and pumped some iron, it's not going to do a dang thing for him. You might know everything about nutrition and get the appropriate macros and all these things, but if you don't implement, it's not going to do a dang thing for you. You might know everything about sales and growing your business, but if you don't do the things to actually grow your business, it's not going to do a dang thing for you. Another analogy, one of the things you guys will notice about me as we continue to work together is that I like to pull things from other areas of life and then apply it to different areas of life. It's one of the fastest ways to grow, in my opinion, is to always be on the lookout, have your brain always on the lookout for things that you can take and glean from and might implement it in health, but also what's the principle that I can apply to that in my business. And one of these things that, and James, you can correct me if I'm wrong because you've been doing it a lot longer than I have, but I was just thinking the other day, what's the difference between how a power lifter trains versus how a person that trains for bodybuilding? A person that is powerlifting, generally speaking, I guess is, hey, I want to do as much weight as possible. Versus a bodybuilder is that I want to build my muscles to be as big as possible. Weights, obviously are part into that in regard, but whatever the number says, who cares? I just want my muscles to get bigger. Now, depending on what your goal is going to impact the way that you work out. Meaning you might have the same exercises, but if I'm doing bodybuilding, I'm going to do higher repetitions, 8 to 30. But if I'm doing powerlifting, I'm going to have much lower repetitions, in that 3 to 5 range, give or take on these numbers. So with that being said, if you're talking to somebody that is trying to bodybuild and you ask them, yeah, how many reps do you do per set? No, I do 3. Well, there's a disconnect there. Or if you're talking to a power lifter and say, well, how many sets are you doing? I do 20. There's a disconnect there. Well, us as loan officers is our job is to, and our goal is to have more closings, more units. And how do we do that? By doing sales activities. So that means if we're spending more time doing administrative stuff, we're doing it wrong. We're like the power lifter doing reps for bodybuilding or vice versa. And so we need to control our schedules so we can do the right activities that are going to lead to the results that we want. Okay, we're wrapping things up here with this. Next is order of operation. I'm going to go through this quickly. It's at any time as loan officers, we can have a million things happening to us at once. And the question is, well, what should I do first? That's why we put an order of operations together to try to make that a little bit easier for you. So the first thing that gets priority of everything else is appointments. You don't want to miss appointments. You have a meeting with a realtor, you don't miss that, and you're not late. Or a client, you're not late for those. But those aren't the only kind of appointments that you'll have. The other appointments you have are prospecting. You need to treat prospecting like an appointment. Because if you have a doctor's appointment and a realtor says, hey, I need to talk with you, you're going to say I can't, I'm in an appointment, can I call you back at such and such a time? Right? We would all do that. The doctor's talking with me, I'll text them back that. Same thing with prospecting. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm in an appointment right now. Can I call you at 11 o'clock? We have to treat our sales activity as prospecting. The same thing with refining. So appointments always get precedent over everything else. Next is a new contract with a closing date that's 30 days or less. So let's just say I'm doing some research right now on a loan program, and then a contract hits my desk closing in 29 days. Well, I'm going to drop what I'm doing, and then I'm going to go work on that file, put it together, get over the processing ASAP. Next is urgent pre-quals or leads. Urgent pre-qual or lead is not somebody says, hey, it's Monday, I'm going out shopping on Saturday. That's not urgent. But it could be urgent if, hey, I'm going out shopping in 2 hours. Can you give this with this client? And I think they're going to write an offer. Can you get them pre-approved? That's urgent. But if I'm working on a file that's closing in 29 days, I need to get that to processing. I'm going to call them. I got to finish this thing up here, but I will be able to call them in 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And I'm going to jump on it. Next would be new contracts closing in 31 days or more. So why the difference here is because I figure we got a little extra day there with that day. So if I have an urgent pre-qual comes in at the same time a new contract closing in 32 days, I'm going to do the urgent pre-qual first. After that is everything else. And so hopefully you run into these issues because that's a good thing. It means you have a lot of leads coming in, a lot of deals coming in, but stick to your order of operations. It helps lower stress. Is because when we have so much coming in at us, it's very easy just to get frazzled and not look at things logically. But this allows us to slow down, look at things. Okay, what do I have to do? Okay, now I know what I'm going to do first. I'm going to do this, then this. And then you methodically work through it. And so one of the things that we're trying to help our LOs too, because as they grow, is they're hitting new stresses that they've never hit before because they had stresses of closing 1 or 2 deals, but they haven't had the stress before of closing 6 or 8, that kind of stuff. There's different types of stresses, different types of problems. And so we want you to know whatever it is that you encounter, we have encountered before. We know how to help you get through that. Sometimes it's just a conversation. Sometimes it's also revealing what the light is as you're going down this path. Like one of our loan officers, he has an LOA now. As he is going through this journey, he was thinking that and stressing out about all of this business coming in, how he can handle it, and maybe he shouldn't be doing this prospecting. And I had to remind him and talk about, okay, dude, you're just in this stage of your business. Here's the next stage of what this looks like, and we have to work to transition to those next stages. But everything comes from controlling your day. And so there is discipline. There's freedom with discipline. Discipline creates freedom. If any of you guys have heard of Jocko Willink, Navy SEAL, he talks about this a lot. But any area that we want to have more freedom in, we need to be more disciplined in that area. You want to have more freedom with your health? You need to be more disciplined in what you do with your health. You want to have more freedom with your finances? You need to be more disciplined with your finances. You want to have more freedom with your time? You need to be more disciplined with your time. And so if you want to have more prosperity freedom, because of more closings, can't think of anything creative to say, you need to be more disciplined in what you do in order to create that freedom. And so I know this is not a sexy topic, a super big topic like prospecting, realtor meetings. Those are the two we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to do prospecting and realtor meetings. But everything really does start from this spot. And you might say is, well, I don't have enough business where where I'm really concerned about it. That's great. That means that you could put the good habits in now, and then it's going to be like nothing for you. To be easy for you to adjust as things get more busy. All right. So with that said, any questions you guys have for me regarding this?